Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Two Up Front, presented by Three Lines Pub here at the Attention Era Media Studios. I am Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
A very good Wednesday to you, Simon Provan. How are we doing today, sir?
I'm doing all right, Baxter. How about yourself?
Not too bad. It's been a good day so far. I got a free T-shirt earlier today, and life is good. Can't complain.
Who's the free T-shirt from?
From the father of my co-host for the morning show that I do on Bruce Sports.
Okay.
So we have a saying on the show that says "Yes Drama," and he sent us shirts that now say "Yes Drama" on them. So he was like, "Don't open it until you're on the air." So got that little present this morning.
Nice.
So I was like, a free T-shirt? Why not?
Sure.
It's a good day to be alive. So we got a great show for you folks today. We're going to be joined by Brian Dunseth of Sirius FC in our second segment, and then we're actually going to show the taped interview that we did with Tesho Akindele as well, too, from FC Dallas. A good friend of the show. He was on... Lord, when was he on?
Probably about 6 months ago.
7 months ago, basically. We've had him on, Kellen Acosta, Walker Zimmerman, great folks from the FC Dallas clan. So shout out to FC Dallas for providing us with fantastic interviews. So I'm excited to see the interview again. I know in the moment you kind of forget some of the things you talk about and ask, but overall, though, Tesho, just class act.
Class act. You know, the last time he was on was after they won the U.S. Open Cup. So we've had him on after the Open Cup. We had him on after the 2-1 win in CONCACAF Champions League. So it's a good record we have going with him. But, yeah, great... honest man, you know, great character. Mm-hmm. It's wonderful to talk to him. So make sure you stay tuned to the show and check out that interview.
Absolutely. And, of course, if you do ever miss our show live, you can get it here on the Bruce Sports Network by going to brucesportsnet.com. You can also catch our show on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker.com, and by going to our website, twoupfrontsoccer.com as well.
And check us out on Facebook, Two Up Front Soccer. You can also find our videos on demand at Bruce Sports on Facebook. And, of course, you can check us out on Twitter at Two Up Front Soccer. He's at Baxter Colburn. I'm at Simon Provan.
All right, Simon Provan. Big news in Major League Soccer. Will it happen? Will it not happen? It finally did happen. Bastian Schweinsteiger announcing that he's leaving Manchester United and he will be signing this summer, not right now, this summer, with the Chicago Fire. So it's officially happening.
It is $4.5 million for 1 year plus a year option on that. I'd like to get your thoughts on it, and then I'll share with you my thoughts, Baxter.
Well, he's one of those players that is a household name. I think even if you're the casual soccer fan, you still have heard of the last name Schweinsteiger, maybe just because some people are like, oh, that's a silly last name. But for those that are soccer fans...
it translates into pig farmer.
Does it really?
It really does. Yeah.
Well, there you go. So Bastian Pig Farmer is coming to Major League Soccer.
Well, at least he's coming to the Midwest. It fits.
That makes more sense. You know, if he had gone to like a team in Iowa or something, you'd be like, there you go. Like, this is a match made in heaven. Chicago maybe is not a pig farming hub of the United States, but I think it's a good move overall. I think he brings he's 32 years old. I think he is younger than some of the other DPs we've seen that have come to the league before. He's not a Pirlo. He's a leader. He's a World Cup winner. He knows what it takes to be successful in soccer, and I think he'll be able to translate that over to some of those younger guys like David Accam and others that are still trying to find their way in Major League Soccer. And ultimately, I think he'll be a good thing for the league. He'll be a good thing for Chicago Fire, and it might actually make them a potential playoff contender as well.
Yeah, my take on this, Baxter, is that he is 32, but we know he's injury prone. So that's actually what it comes down to.
That is a big thing.
Can he stay healthy? He's been injured throughout the years. Of course, he has been playing at Manchester United, so maybe he gets some extra rest on those legs and he comes in a little bit healthier than you would otherwise expect. I think it is a good addition. I think it allows Dax and Janino to basically do the work for him,
right?
And that the Fire can actually use him as perhaps a withdrawn forward or a second forward and actually allow him to play in that offensive position. So I do think overall, if he stays healthy, it is a good addition to the club. And plus, let's not deny the fact that it's all about marketing as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And it doesn't help to dispel the notion that MLS is a retirement league, which we don't agree with. Yes, they get some of those older superstars in, but they also have a lot of very young DPs in the league right now.
Well, you're right. That's the thing too, is we've seen this shift even the last maybe 3 or 4 years with these younger DPs. Like, I think they said the average DP age that was signed this last offseason, I think, was 25 and a half.
Well, and on top of that, you know, when Brian was on the show last time, he made a great point about the targeted allocation money, allowing teams to bring in younger players and fill out more of that roster than just having to spend all the money offensively. In this case, we see a Chicago Fire team take away that 4-0 meltdown they had versus Atlanta United, who's just incredible, especially for an expansion team.
That's a whole other conversation. I don't even know what to do with them.
But I think Chicago is a lot stronger this year. We're seeing that for the most part, and this is a great addition to the team.
This is now the 11th World Cup winner to come to Major League Soccer as well. I mean, he joins good company. He joins Denelson, Thierry Henry, some of the other guys. Let's see here: Alessandro Nesta, David Villa, of course, Pirlo, Kaká. The list kind of goes on and on. So he's in good company, and it's. Obviously, we don't have droves and droves of World Cup winners that are coming, but at the same time, it's still good to get that experience in, because ultimately that's what some of these younger players are trying to do for their own countries.
Well, and I think he will add an addition of excitement possibly up top. I know he's mainly used in the midfield, but as I said before, I think we'll see him up top a bit. If anything, it's going to be exciting to see what him and Nemanja Nikolic can do for the Fire together.
That is definitely going to be one thing to keep an eye on for sure. Kurt on Facebook says, "Looking great, guys. I love to listen to you two, but I have no idea what you are ever talking about. I guess I just need to tune in to learn more." Exactly, Kurt. Just tune in more. You will learn all you need to know about the soccer world. But we do appreciate you watching, of course, so thank you for that. What else would we need to talk about here?
Staying local now. So we were talking Chicago. We're going to shift back up here to Milwaukee. For those of you who don't know, we are based in Milwaukee, and we do have a major arena soccer league team here called the Milwaukee Wave. They're actually the longest-running consecutive professional soccer team in the United States.
Very impressive.
And they ended up losing last night in the Eastern Conference Finals of the MASL. They lost Game 1, came back to Milwaukee, won last night 8-4. The way the MASL works, it's still hard to say all of that.
It's a lot of letters.
Is that if the series is tied after 2 games, it's not aggregate. They play basically a 15-minute overtime or 15-minute mini game, as they like to call it. So a mini Game 3. You and I both watched the game a bit on YouTube, at least
most of the
mini
overtime
game
period.
And it was not a lot of scoring. Finished 2-1. Very disappointing for the Wave, because they were holding Baltimore Blast quite well in the final third of the field, or court, whatever you want to call it. And they ended up basically gifting Baltimore a goal, deflection off of a defender, sent the Wave's goalkeeper the other way, goes in the goal, 1-0.
Yep.
2 minutes left in the extra game, and Wave ties it up with a great goal by Marco Leite. And then Wave kind of falls asleep.
Seconds later.
I think 30 seconds later, Baltimore Blast scores that game-winning goal, and that was it. So congratulations to the Wave on a season that they started out very slow, but ended up making it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, and we'll see what happens next year for them, Baxter.
I think realistically, too, and we've had Coach Oliviero on, we've had Ian Bennett on, we've had different folks that are associated with the Wave organization over the last couple of months. The expectation wasn't incredibly high coming into the season. We knew Coach was like, we want to win. That's why they made so many off-season moves,
right.
But they struggled in the beginning. They were sitting in 4th place, 5th place in their division, and then they just went on this tear to finish out the season, which ultimately, if there's ever a time to go on a tear, it's the end of the season going into the playoffs. And I think the Milwaukee Wave should be absolutely ecstatic about how their season finished.
Well, and here's the way you look at their offseason is first of all, they brought in a lot of Canadian national futsal team players to the team. And on top of that, at least I think 6 or 7 of these guys are going to be playing in the summer with the Milwaukee Torrent. So that chemistry is going to be gelled throughout the year. It's going to be worked on throughout the year. So I do think next year the Wave starts out a lot stronger. And maybe we see them make it all the way to the finals and perhaps win their first championship since, I think, 2012.
It's been a long time, that's for sure. But I think overall you have to commend Coach Oliviero, what he did with the squad this year. You could tell the guys, just Max Ferdinand, Ian Bennett, Drew Ruggles, they were feeling it this year. I think they were truly bought in, especially with that surge at the end. But Ian Bennett, as we've talked about, both with the Wave and the Torrent, just a goal-scoring machine. And ultimately he had to do that down the stretch, and just wasn't enough at the end, though.
And speaking of Max Ferdinand, that was a tough injury. They lost Max about 2 minutes into
the face,
ball to the eye. They actually had to take him back into the medical room. He never came out, so I don't know how he's doing. So our best wishes to Max Ferdinand. But I believe he was the Wave's leading assist player. So you certainly would have liked to have seen him be able to finish out that mini game, and maybe it ends up a different way.
And I was just going to say, who knows how that game ends, honestly, if you've got a guy like Max Ferdinand out there dishing the ball around, because the Wave literally were just coming in droves. They were, washing over the defense to try to find some sort of a bad water pun to say that they were attacking, basically. But a little unfortunate for them in the final end there for them. We're going to get to Brian Dunseth here in just a brief moment. One of the other final things I wanted to ask you about briefly is, it's almost a 2-part question. I was going to ask you about one team, but I really want to ask you about 2. Are Portland and Atlanta for real? because they just seem to both be on tears right now. Portland is just dismantling every single team they play. Atlanta, as you mentioned briefly earlier, we've never seen this from an expansion team before as well, too. How real are both of these teams right now?
Well, I think Portland, obviously the only team in the league that has 3 wins out of 3 games, so they're sitting on 9 points. I think Portland is for real. And the main reason I say that, Baxter, is this game against Houston on Saturday night.
Yeah.
They go down 2-1 heading into half. I mean, Houston gets that goal right before halftime and puts them ahead 2-1. And again, we see Elise and Quioto once again playing great for Houston. Mm-hmm. Most teams, when that happens, the momentum gets away from them and they come out very flat in the second half. Well, they come out total belief and they tear Houston apart. And Houston has been playing great soccer this season.
Yeah, I think I even took Houston in this game, too. I was like, it's going to be a dogfight.
I think you took a draw.
Did I take a draw? Okay, wow.
Well, whatever the case may be, listen, Guzman in the midfield, or Guzman in the midfield for Portland, I believe has been their most important pickup, at least early in the season here. The way he connects with Adi is exactly what you want.
Fernando Adi has been on another level, too.
And so has Diego Valeri. 4 goals, 2 assists in 3 games. So he's your very early season MVP pick, if we're being honest.
I completely agree with you.
So yes, is Portland for real? Absolutely they are. You know, they go to LA, they end up winning in LA. That Minnesota United game, say what you want, 5-1 scoreline.
Bit of a wash.
But at the same time, we see Minnesota United. Who did they get their first 2 goals against? The team that's supposed to be the best on defense. Or not their first 2, but they actually get their first time points. Scoring 2 goals and their first points in the league against the Colorado Rapids. Atlanta United, Josef Martinez, that's all you need to know. Are they for real? How can you say they're not for real? Maybe Brian has different thoughts on that for us, but... what an exciting team. They have lived up to expectations in their early season back.
Yes, I completely agree. I mean, if you're Houston and Portland, I mean, there's really been just these 2 teams I think have been so surprising, and you can kind of see the highlights that they're running right now too. I mean, just an absolutely electrifying game. I mean, if this was Houston-Portland last year, we would have both probably taken Portland by probably +3, honestly, just because Houston was atrocious last year. But the offseason moves that have been made have definitely benefited the Dynamo. I think they're going to learn from this game. I really do.
I do. And of course, I want to keep talking about Portland. Defensively, I'm actually quite impressed with Portland and how together they are in the back. They don't have Liam Ridgewell in there. They do have Roy Miller, who's also been a great pickup from Saprissa.
Right.
And of course, Vitas, Valentine have filled in great. Alvis Powell. They're taking chances with Powell as he likes to run up the field, so they do get a bit exposed in the back, and we saw Houston take advantage of that. But with the firepower that Portland has up front, it's kind of a wash.
You're right. Well, when you talk about firepower, you have to talk about arguably one of the greatest people to ever play the game of soccer when it comes to Major League Soccer. And that list has one name solely on the top by himself. It's Brian Dunseth. You probably have heard him on Sirius XMFC. You've seen him play for Real Salt Lake, for my New England Revolution. I own the team. Maybe we'd actually have a stadium by now if I owned the team. That's a whole other conversation. But he joins us now here on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. Brian, good afternoon. Good day to you. How are we doing, sir?
I'm doing good, guys. Ridiculous intro. There were guys with more talent in their pinky toe than I had in my entire body, but I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's all about the flattery, because if we don't, I mean, it's part of your contract to come on to up front. If we don't give you at least a 1.5-minute intro, you won't come on the show.
Yeah, it's fair. Slightly aggressive, but it's fair.
Well, Brian, we need to start close to home with you first before we go to the international level with the men's national team. Real Salt Lake announcing this week that they are moving on from their head coach. Your thoughts about the RSL squad thus far and on the firing as well?
Yeah, I picked the wrong month to cancel my GoGo internet on my Delta flight because I was flying back from MLS headquarters. And when I landed in Salt Lake City, turned my phone on and it promptly melted in my hand. I had 33 text messages and over 200 mentions on Twitter, and I couldn't figure out what was happening. And then obviously when I started scrolling through texts, I saw everyone mentioning Jeff, and I put 2 and 2 together. Probably, and I spoke with Jeff yesterday morning. If I'm going to use probably the wrong analogy, but I thought that there was a bit of a state of execution when it came to the weekend's results, because I thought Soren Stoica, the referee, had an absolute debacle of a performance and really ruined the rhythm and the flow of that game against the LA Galaxy for both teams. It's not just a result conversation. But I saw elements in that game of Brooks Lennon and Bofo Salcedo, both U.S. under-20s, with Yermov Sissi and Albert Rusnak, that really led me to believe that the team was trending in the right direction. Now, when I saw the announcement itself, I saw the quotes from Craig Weibel. He made it very clear from the start of preseason, the opening day, that there were certain targets that he and the staff needed to see, the owner, Deloy Hansen. And for one reason or another, what was ever on that checklist was not being checked off. So I said yesterday here on ESPN 700, our local affiliate, if you're going to make the move now. He's still got, 31 games left. That's 91% of the season, if my math is correct, which I went to Cal State Fullerton for 3 semesters, so it'd be highly suspect at any point. Now's the time to make it. There's a pushback from a vocal part of the fan base that said, well, then why did you give the extension in the offseason if the leash was that short? Again, I think when you lose Javier Morales and you lose Burrito Martinez, but you retain Jeff Cassar, there will be pressure immediately because they're going to look at the way the team backed into the playoffs last year and the fact that it hasn't won yet. I thought they played well against Toronto in the 0-0 result. I thought they were unlucky against Chicago with the 2 really weird goals, a back pass and a hard deflection. And then this weekend with Kyle Beckerman being sent off in the first 43 minutes of the match. I don't think the team is as bad as people make it out to be. I think it actually is significantly better than the team makes it out to be, or a lot of the pundits make it out to be. But the reality is, if they knew they were going to make the change, if there was a short list of guys that they thought would make this team significantly better, now is the time to do it. Now the question is, who's on that list for Craig Weibel? Mm-hmm. Is a couple of those names attached right now? And if so, are they willing to buy those guys out of their contract? And most importantly, what is kind of financially what these guys are looking for to be the head coach of Real Salt Lake, should they be interested?
Well, speaking of that list, Brian, of course, we don't have Craig Weibel's list in front of us, but SB Nation, the RSL Soapbox, has list 11 options.
That's it?
Yeah. And some of these I think are a bit unrealistic. Nat Borchers, obviously he was a great player for RSL, great player for Portland, but we know he's not going to be given the reins. I got to believe that Mike Petke, though, however, is got to be one of those names at the top of the list, considering he's coaching the RSL USL team right now. Some of the other names on here, just like to get your thoughts on, is Bob Bradley realistic? Robin Fraser, of course, spent time with the club.
Dunseth.
Brian Dunseth.
Would you take that job? Just out of sheer curiosity.
No accountability, man. I'm on the pundit side.
There you go. Exactly.
Do whatever we want. Everything's fine.
Siggy Schmid's another one.
Yeah.
Are those 3? Well, I think they are realistic in your mind. And if those were the 3 at the top of the list, which one of those do you go with?
So let me layer the conversation for a second, because RSL is kind of a weird organism when it comes to this talk about head coaches. So John Ellinger lasted 2 years, basically. And then Dave Checketts decided to give Jason Kreis the opportunity to step off the field as a captain on a Saturday and be the head coach on a Tuesday.
Right.
So
I couldn't believe that.
It really changes the conversation. I think that's one of the reasons why, number one, for Jeff Cassar, it was such an incredibly difficult set of shoes to fill. It's one of those where it's kind of like following Sir Alex Ferguson, if you want to put the easiest analogy. Like, you don't want to be David Moyes, and that's unfortunately with Jeff Cassar. Jeff Cassar was David Moyes.
That actually is a great analogy.
You
put that in that perspective. That's a great way to say it, because Kreis was so successful at RSL, bringing home an MLS Cup and then heading out to New York City.
Yeah, and Jeff Cassar is the perfect assistant coach. But the difficulty in following Jason was now you got to follow the success. You throw in the Bill Manning and the Garth Lagerwey president and general manager role along with that success. And as they leave and they go to Toronto and Seattle respectively, Craig Weibel comes in as assistant coach and then is named general manager. So you throw all that equation out the window. Nat Borchers is a beloved figure here in Salt Lake City, and not just because of the beard, but because of the success that he's had. So immediately there's going to be a vocal part of the fan base is going to say, well, it doesn't matter if he doesn't have his badges, or if it doesn't matter if he hasn't coached before, because look what we did with Jason Christ. So there's that weird kind of selection policy when it comes to the vocal minority of Twitter RSL fans. Robin makes sense because he was Jason's first assistant. I feel like he and Wilmer Cabrera and anyone who coached or was a part of Chivas USA gets an instant asterisk next to their name because Chivas was a disaster. Robin was in the running after Jason left, but they elected to go with Jeff. Robin is successful right now with Greg Vanny and TFC, and would he want to leave that project for another opportunity? And is there any hard feelings first time around with it not going in his direction and him going to the New York Red Bulls? Then you get into kind of Mike Pecky. Well, Mike Pecky was here at my house a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about Real Monarchs, and he just got back from his first trips with the Real Monarchs, the USL side for Real Salt Lake. But he's been out of coaching for 2 years at that level. I think he was hard done with the way he was treated at New York Red Bulls. I think he'll be a fantastic coach once again in MLS. But is there a slight hesitation for him being away for 2 seasons? Then you get into Ziggy and Bob. I think Bob is the target of LAFC. I think that if there was ever a team that Bob would want to come back to, it would be LAFC. But I'm also of the firm belief that Bob is on the path less traveled. And I think that he's still pretty pissed off of how things ended at Swansea City. So I'm not sure he wants to come back. And then Ziggy. I used another analogy last night. Imagine being a player and making $600,000, and then all of a sudden you get cut. And your next opportunity, someone says, I know you have experience. I know you're an elite player. At least you used to be. But are you willing to come back and play for $200,000? From an egotistical standpoint, you have to start thinking in that direction. Is a guy willing to walk away from what he was making previously from his last paycheck? I'm not saying that Deloy Hansen isn't willing to pay Ziggy Schmidt the $600,000 or whatever he wanted to pay. I'm just not sure in Ziggy Schmidt's mind he's willing to take a step backwards from where he was at. He has before with Columbus Crew, but then he took a huge jump with Seattle. So all of these layers of conversations, I think fans have to start thinking about. I still think there's some outliers. Giovanni Savarese deserves an opportunity, but will a very vocal new owner in the New York Cosmos and what he came out yesterday with a flamethrower talking about U.S. soccer, is he willing to let Gio lead? Pat Noonan, Josh Wolf, Ante Razov, Wade Barrett. What about some of these really talented American assistant coaches who have been coming through the system? And then what about a college guy? So everyone will talk about Jeremy Gunn and what he's done at Stanford. I'm a big fan of Jamie Clark and what he's been doing at the University of Washington. And I think he could be just as successful as Caleb Porter has been in Major League Soccer. So whatever that list is, I think there's a lot of them. I don't think it's easy just to say this has to be the guy because there's too many. It's like buying a house. It's your agent, it's their agent, it's the seller, it's the guy doing your loan, it's the title guy, it's the guy who's recording. There's so many things that are out of your control. But this has to happen by, I think, midweek of next week when RSL's on the road at Minnesota. Because I don't think you want to wait longer than 10 days for this to get done.
And I mean, you make a bunch of valid points in that, in all honesty. Right now, Real Salt Lake, if they were having the same success that they were having even 5 or 6 years ago, this, I think, would be a more hot commodity of a job. Right now, it's a struggling RSL team that, frankly, is just one above Minnesota in the Western Conference standings right now, which isn't saying much. So, But
real quick, I don't mean to cut in. The one thing to think about is Deloy Hansen, the owner, is dropping $50 million on this academy in Salt Lake City. So basically the under 8s all the way to the first team are going to be on the ground in SLC. That's the first time because it's been in Casa Grande and Martin Vasquez has been running that academy. You throw in the Monarchs being in stadium. I know it's dismissed because it's Salt Lake City. I'm not trying to play up the homer part. I travel a lot. I see a lot of different teams in MLS. But I think this organization is much bigger. It's going to clear about $14 million just in commercial dollars alone this season. TV market, we're pulling consistent 5s in this region, and it's almost a regional deal with Idaho, Vegas, Arizona, New Mexico. it's bigger than people realize, and I think the team is better than people realize. It's just a matter of, like you said, you got to get off the schneid, and you got to start winning games.
Well, but it is a great point that you make, Brian, in regards to the academy. I mean, we see how well FC Dallas is doing with their academy system, and yes, they use players from all over the place, which great for them. But we do see how strong that club has gotten because of their academy system. And if you're a coach wanting, I guess what they always say in the press, a long-term project, as you're talking about, RSL looks to be that long-term project.
Yeah, and Craig Weibel, I've spent a lot of time with Craig, and I think he's one of the best general managers in Major League Soccer. There is a philosophy that's being put together right now for RSL from the bottom up. And the first person I was aware of doing it was really Peter Vermes in Sporting Kansas City, where there's an ideological step-by-step of how you want to do the Sporting Kansas City way. And I know that RSL is putting this together too. So it might not pay immediate dividends, although Jordan Allen and Justin Glad and Bofo Saucedo and Brooks Lennon and Danny Acosta, you could throw all those names into the equation, especially with what we're seeing with the under-20s. Mm-hmm. Over the last couple of cycles. But this is a starving market, and this market has a lot of good players, but institutionally it hasn't had the coaching structure that's necessary. And I think as long as you're going in the same direction, it doesn't matter South American, North American, European, African, whatever the background is from the coaches, from where they were born, as long as everybody understands that you're heading in the same direction, you're pulling in the same direction, and you're kind of fast tracking from training sessions to how you're dealing with strength and conditioning, nutrition, going from video analysis. We're in a whole new world. And if you would have told me in '97 when I was training at Brandeis University with Thomas Rongen that this was the way that we were going, I would have told you you're bat-ish crazy and you're out of your mind.
All right, Brian, before we let you run here, we have the United States taking on Honduras in a very crucial clash over the weekend here. Your thoughts briefly about the squad that Bruce Arena has assembled and the United States' chances as well in a very important, pivotal game.
Yeah, I agree with what you guys were saying earlier about Albert Elise as well as Kyoto. You throw in Boniek Garcia, you throw in Roger Espinosa. This is a very, very talented Honduran team, and I don't think it's getting enough credit. I know everyone's saying it's 3 points at home, and you're going to go and maybe get 3 points, maybe just get a point, but 4 points out of these two games with Panama on the backside, it's going to be much more difficult than people are giving it credit for. You start with Jermaine and Timmy Chandler suspended for that first match. Then you throw in Bobby Wood and Fabian Johnson injured. Brad Guzan celebrating the birth of his second child, a little girl, 2 days ago. And I'm a huge fan of Bruce Arena. Everything that he does, they will go in with style, substance, identity, structure, even with missing these players. But it's not going to be as easy as people think. CONCACAF is significantly, drastically better than it's ever been. It's not just one or two guys. It's not just Mexico home and away and Costa Rica at Ricardo Saprissa Stadium where the suspect results come into play. It's everywhere, and we've already seen that and how good Costa Rica and Mexico are. Still plenty of points left on the board. Question is, who plays it right back with DeAndre Yedlin out injured? I think Jeff Cameron's over on that side. Does he go with Omar and John Brooks centrally? I think Bees is at left. Timmy's obviously in goal. I think Michael Bradley sits. I think Sebastian Lletget, Pulisic wide right, Jonathan Agby wide left. Sorry, I'm thinking about it as I'm looking in the distance.
I keep shaking my head, though. I keep shaking my head. Yes. That sounds right.
Sasha Question underneath Josie Altidore is how I think they'll line up. I hope Michael Orozco doesn't see the field. I hope Wando doesn't see the field. I hope we're going in a different direction. No disrespect to those guys.
Well, no, those are two guys who produce very well for their clubs, but anytime we see them at the national team level, they don't do anything for the team.
Yeah, Timmy Chandler as well.
Yes.
So yeah, I think in my mind that's how I'm kind of preparing for how the team will line up without any insider information. But again, I caution everyone to dismiss Honduras because, like you guys said, even though they went up, even though Fernando Adi and Diego Valeri are absolutely dicing up people left and right, and they came back from that result in Portland. If you've been watching Cubo Torres and Elise and Kyoto up top, it's been frightening to see how dynamic and how dangerous they can be. And
absolutely,
what a handful they will be for that back four of the United States.
Absolutely. Do you have a score prediction for us before we let you run?
I'm terrible at that. I'm horrible.
It's more fun that way then.
I think there's points. I'll be a homer. I'll say it's 3 points for the United States. But again, I caution you. Honduras is better than people give them credit for.
Well, on top of the MLS players you mentioned, they do have a player in La Liga. They got players in Liga MX. So as you're saying, Brian, this is what I've been preaching as well. Is this is a strong team, this Honduran team, and it's so easy to sit back and say, well, we're playing at home. Well, we lost to Mexico.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, I'm going to take you back a year really quick. Think about Honduras in the under-23 Olympic qualifying tournament. And they pushed aside the United States out here at Rio Tinto Stadium. And a lot of that was on the shoulders of Albert Elise. So afterwards, I was listening to the coach do his post-game press conference, and he was asked a really pointed question. He said, what's the difference between U.S. players and Honduras players at this age? And he said something that really stuck with me, and it went back to a conversation I had with Caleb Porter a few years ago. He said, in the United States, at Christmas, kids are given iPhones and Xboxes. In Honduras, they're given soccer balls.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of went back to a conversation I had a previous cycle ago with Caleb Porter. And Caleb said, I knew we were in trouble when I was on the bike and I looked out and the coach, our final opponent, I believe it was El Salvador. I think it was El Salvador. And they just needed the result. They said, I was watching the coach have their conversation with the players, and he said there was a look in their eyes that I'd never seen in a U.S. player's eyes. And it kind of goes back to, this conversation about Bradenton and under-17s and $200 cleats and coddled players and the dynamic of desire and providing for family. And is there just a little bit of something that the U.S. player is missing? At the international level, the full international level, I think it's a different conversation. But I do think there's something that we constantly dismiss when it comes to CONCACAF, especially in World Cup qualifying, that maybe there's something just a little bit lacking in the U.S. camp.
All right, Brian. Well, we appreciate your time. Where can people continue to listen to you and find you on social media as well to stay up to date with the latest soccer news?
Wherever they'll offer me a job. Sirius XM with Tony Miola on Counterattack 5 to 7 Eastern is probably the most frequent.
Sounds good, Brian. Always appreciate your time, sir. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Right, thanks, Brian.
There goes Brian Dunseth on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. Your thoughts about what Adam says here on Facebook among the qualifiers, Mexico versus Costa Rica. Adam wants to know your general thoughts about that game. He says El Tre versus the Ticos. I mean, arguably you're looking at some of the very biggest and brightest in the CONCACAF region. Of course, Costa Rica surprising many people at the World Cup back in 2014. But Mexico, I feel like, is still the better team overall. Do you see Mexico still being the clear favorite in this game?
Yeah, it all depends on how they handle the injuries that they've dealt with, Baxter. Look, the thing about Costa Rica is they were the best team in the last World Cup that we had.
Correct.
They've continued to be strong. To me, this actually is the game in CONCACAF right now.
Agreed.
Which way does it go? I honestly don't know. Who was the listener again?
Adam,
I got to be honest with you. I haven't looked too much into this game, so I'm going to do that during our interview with Tesho, the pre-recorded interview, which we're going to play in a bit.
Yep.
I'm going to do a little bit of research and then come back and give my opinion on that, if that works.
Sounds good. Well, speaking of that interview, earlier this last week, Simon and I had a chance to have a phone call interview with Tesho Akindele of FC Dallas to catch up on everything going on in his life, to catch up with what's been going on with FC Dallas as well, too. That was the night after, is that correct? Or the morning of? When was for the Pachuca game?
That was the day after.
The day after. So we got a chance to speak with him the day after FC Dallas beat Pachuca 2-1 in the first of the two legs of the CCL semifinals. So take a look at the interview here as we had a chance to sit down with Tesho Akindele. Hi, everybody. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Welcome to Two Up Front for a very special edition, a sneak peek interview between myself and this gentleman sitting to my left. How are we doing today, Simon?
I'm good, Baxter. How about yourself?
Doing well. Happy St. Patrick's
Happy
today.
St. Patty's Day to all you out there today.
I was going to say, I feel like we needed the Irish accent for Simon to come out here early on in the show.
You have to.
You do a good one, too, so it works
thanks.
out well for you. So
Thank you.
we've got a special Luck of the Irish treat here for you folks today, as we are going to have an interview here in just a brief moment with FC Dallas forward Tesho Akindele. We're going to speak to him in just a moment, but we do want to let you guys know that this will be also airing on our show, our normal edition of Two Up Front on Wednesday from 10 to 11 a.m. Central Time live on Brew Sports. So if you haven't liked Brew Sports yet, that's where you can find us on Wednesdays now from 10 to 11 Central. So make sure to go do that so you can catch this full interview there in just a little bit. So some exciting stuff here, Simon. FC Dallas continuing to be the powerhouse, as you like to call them at times as well.
Absolutely.
And we are going to be joined on the shopfutsal.com call-in line by FC Dallas striker and Canadian international Tesho Akindele. Tesho, welcome to Two Up Front, sir. How are we doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely. We are excited to have you on the program today. How's everything going so far? The first two games of the season in the bag for FC Dallas. You've been able to appear in both the games, once as a starter, once as a super sub. How are you feeling so far? How's the body feeling? Are you getting back into that regular season routine now?
I mean, I think so far so good. You know, we had 2 on the road so far, and we got 4 points out of that. I think that's good. And then, you know, looking at the CONCACAF Champions League, we got a win in our first semifinal game, and now we have to go play in Mexico in a couple weeks. But I think everything is looking really good, and the team's definitely feeling positive.
Tesho, you've appeared in every single competitive game so far in this young season, going 90 minutes in that second leg against Arube Unido. Other times you're coming in, understandably, as a substitute with the incredibly strong midfield that FC Dallas has. Are you comfortable with that role? Are you hoping to get more minutes as the season progresses?
Yeah, I guess everybody's goal is obviously to be a starter, you know, but at this point the team sees me as the first guy off the bench, which is it's not a bad place to be. I think that kind of what the coaches are hoping for is that I can bring some energy and, you know, bring some kind of attacking power to the team when maybe our team is tired and their defense is tired. Like, for example, one of our first game of the season, I came on and I had two assists in the last 15 minutes of the game, so I think that's kind of what the role they want me in right now, so I think I'm doing that well.
Talking with Tesho Akindele here on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. Tesho, FC Dallas right now sitting in 4th place in the Western Conference. Of course, plenty of time to go here, and there's the regular season just starting to kick off. How has the team overall embraced all of the hype from last season going into this season, basically being called as the outright favorite to win MLS Cup this season?
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things that we got to deal with. You know, I think we know we're a good team, so all the hype doesn't really get to us too much. And then as far as being in 4th, you know, we've played 2 games on the road, so to be in 4th after playing 2 tough in-conference games on the road isn't bad at all. And then we'll have a home game this weekend, which, you know, we'll be looking for all 3 points in that one.
Well, of course, one of the things you have to compliment is Oscar Pereira's job with shuffling your lineups. I mean, going to Sporting Kansas City, not playing all the starters, but again, you yourself playing, I believe, the full 90 in that game and coming out with a draw. That really is a testament to FC Dallas, knowing that you do have these important Champions League matches going on. And I do want to focus a little bit on that. You guys got a great win against Pachuca, coming back down 1-0 early on, coming back 2-1. You got a few minutes yourself to close out that game. 2-1 though, it's a pretty I don't want to say scary scoreline, but for lack of a better phrase, a little bit of a scary scoreline heading into Mexico with knowing that Pachuca's got that away goal on you now. What do you have to do as a club to come over Pachuca, who of course is a very strong Mexican side?
Yeah, I think, you know, we know that's going to be a tough game because even here they gave us a lot of problems. Obviously, they started the game ahead. One thing that we're going to do is I think we're planning on going down to Mexico a little bit early because there's a lot of altitude over there, so we're going to try to go and get acclimated to the altitude a little bit. And then, I mean, at the end of the day, if we don't lose, we go through. So, you know, we get a tie, we get a win over there, we're good. So if it comes down to the last 15 minutes and we're tied, I think it'll be all hands on deck and just bunker in maybe. But if not, I think we still believe that we have the talent to kind of go out there and try to score a goal ourselves.
What is your overall plan for this upcoming season, Tesho? I know that last season, of course, you could just continue to build on the success that you've had in your career in MLS, but now that you are, to an extent, a little bit more of a seasoned veteran here for FC Dallas, have you had conversations with Coach Pereira, or have you just set goals for yourself that you're going to do your best to exceed this season, whether it be a goal tally or minutes played or just games that you help contribute in overall? What are some of the things that you're trying to accomplish this season?
I think I want to score a few more goals this season than I did last season. I think for my first 3 years, I've been hovering around 7 or 8 goals. So hopefully maybe I can break into 10 goals is what I want. And then I also want to start a few more games, which is something the coaches are obviously aware of. And I think right now I'm pushing for that starting spot, but we have so many good players on our team that, at this point it's understandable that I'm not starting, but I think that's kind of my goal, is to just become a starter of this team. And now that I'm in my 4th season, I think it's about time.
Shifting to the international game, Tesho, big news out of Canada. Of course, Octavio Zambrano named the head coach. It's been a little while, and Canada heading into the Gold Cup this summer. It's been a little while since you've been with the Canadian team. Don't know if you had time to take this in at all, but would love to hear your thoughts on the coaching assignment.
Yeah, I think I'm excited to have a new coach. I think it's kind of a good time for a new coach to come in, because now that we're out of the World Cup qualifying, we have a long time to regroup and kind of figure out where the program is at before the next World Cup qualifying cycle. And, with so many young players and good players, I think it's going to give him a lot of time to evaluate what we have. I don't know him personally that well, but I'm sure that he's a great coach. I'm excited to start working with him.
What would you say, just as an overall kind of a question here, what would you say has been the main crutch of the Canadian national team the last couple of years? Because it always seems like they have fairly young, talented, exciting rosters, but they just can't put the pieces together. And Simon and I have talked about this on the show multiple times as well. We really do root for Canada because we love the young talent on the team, but from your perspective as someone that's a little bit closer to it, do you know, or can you potentially identify what some of the issues have been that you haven't been able to attain as much success as people thought you would?
Yeah, I would say definitely the final third is where we've been struggling, which is, right now it's kind of surprising because you have people like Kyle Larin, St. Ricketts, myself, just Jonathan Osorio, a lot of good attacking players, but we haven't been scoring goals. Like, if you look at the last Gold Cup, we scored 0 goals, but we only conceded 1. So our defense has been doing great, and, it's kind of up to me and the other guys on offense to start scoring. But I think that's one of the things that will come over time because, like I said, we're young. None of us have really played together before, so as we kind of get more camps together, more time playing with each other, things will start clicking, and I think we have the talent to start putting the pieces together.
Well, Tesho, as we get ready to let you go here, we do want to be the first, although it be a little early, to wish you a happy birthday here in the next couple of weeks. March 31st will be your birthday, so an early happy birthday to you, sir. And we certainly appreciate you coming back on the show as well, too. And we wish you and FC Dallas the very best of luck, and hope we can check in with you as well come mid-season after you've broken the single-season goal-scoring record. So we look forward to talking to you soon.
Yeah.
Hey, and Tesho, I personally...
So. Thanks for having me on, guys, and happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I personally want to wish you the best of luck in the CONCACAF Champions League. Love to see an MLS team win this someday, and I certainly believe that FC Dallas has the talent to do it. So good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you soon. There goes Tesho Akindele on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. A very special thanks to him and FC Dallas for making this interview possible. Thanks to all of you as well that tuned in here on our 2 Up Front page. And make sure to tune in to the full episode of 2 Up Front this Wednesday from 10 to 11 a.m. Central Time live on Brew Sports. He's Simon Provent. I'm Baxter Colburn. Thanks to Tesho Akindele. We'll talk to you guys next time on 2 Up Front. Have a great St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Great to hear there from Tesho Akindele of FC Dallas. Just a class act, as we mentioned before we obviously went into the interview, Simon. Now that you've had a little bit more time to digest it, anything else that Tesho said in his interview that kind of stuck out to you more about him or FC Dallas going forward?
Well, I love the idea of what he's talking about with, the whole idea of, yes, he's a super sub, and he's okay with that, but ultimately he does want to be in the starting 11 at some point. That's what every soccer player aims for at some point. So, again, just going back to how honest he's being with that, that, yet also being honest with where he is in the team.
Exactly. No, yeah, I completely agree with you on that one. All right, you wanted to answer Adam's question before we get to our MLS predictions and everything, and I believe to close out the show. So,
right.
Did you find anything?
You know, here I got to say one thing. Is U.S. media does not do a great job covering Costa Rica, which is a complete shame considering they are on paper right now, like literally in the standings, the best team in CONCACAF. What I'm looking at here, of course, the game is at Azteca, which, yes, some teams got results.
Hard place to win.
Right, some teams have gotten results there, including Costa Rica in 2001, U.S. getting a draw in the last World Cup qualifying cycle. However, it is Azteca. It is a fortress for Mexico. And yes, Mexico does have a slew of injuries, Giovanni Dos Santos being one of those. Guidardo, who was named to the roster 5 days ago, we're now being told isn't going to be playing. The biggest question mark for Mexico right now is the lack of fullbacks. The rest of the squad, this just goes to show the depth of Mexico. They're deep into every single position, so I don't think you worry about any of that. So I do think defensively, if you're Mexico, that's where you worry when Costa Rica does have players like Johan Venegas, who of course plays at Manchester United up top. Brian Ruiz, the great midfielder, playing over in Portugal.
A timeless midfielder that just never will retire.
So as we were talking about Honduras versus the U.S., you can't take them lightly. Mexico certainly shouldn't be taking Costa Rica lightly. And
right.
I wouldn't be surprised if we do see Costa Rica end up winning this game with the firepower that Costa Rica does have.
And I agree with you on that one. Ultimately, if you're able to exploit the defensive issues that the Mexican national team has right now, I mean, this is the time to do it. If you want to continue to establish yourself as a high power, not only in CONCACAF, but in world soccer, beating a team like Mexico is a great thing to put on your soccer resume, especially come World Cup time, especially come just international, favor as a whole, basically.
Right, and of course, Costa Rica number 1, Mexico number 2 in the hex standings. So whoever wins this game can almost seal their ticket.
That's
to
the
Russia.
goal. Exactly. All right, Simon, looking back at the week that was in Major League Soccer, I'm going to be honest, it was probably an awful week for me when it came to predictions. I went 2-9.
I got 2 games on you this week.
You did. I still am overall better by 1 point. You went 4-7. I went 2-9 in our MLS predictions. 2 draws this last week, NYCFC in Montreal and Colorado, Minnesota, as we talked about earlier. I thought maybe, and then I woke up that FC Dallas was going to lose to the Revolution. Obviously, that was not the case because even though that penalty kick goal was great, Maxi Rudy would go on to just be named the Player of the Week because that's what he does is dash the hopes and dreams of everybody that's a New England Revolution fan. Let us win a game.
If you're a Portland fan, you look at how well Rudy did this week for FC Dallas. You look at how well Rodney Wallace did for New York City FC, and you go, "Oh, maybe we should have." Up the ante and kept those guys in Portland.
There's always those moves that you're just like, why did we get rid of them?
But Baxter, I feel for you as a fan of the New England Revolution.
It's painful.
I'm going to say it. They are the most irrelevant team in all of Major League Soccer.
It's true. No, I really don't have an argument against that, honestly. I mean, the only reason Minnesota is relevant is the fact that they are the expansion team, so they are just more talked about than the Revolution. But
they're also getting 35,000 people to a game that has a foot of snow.
Also helps, yeah. The biggest thing with the Revolution, we could go on for hours about this, honestly, is that the owners don't care. The players are not enjoying playing for the team just because they feel devalued. There's so many different issues that the Revolution have. Maybe it's a coaching problem. I don't think it is. I really just think that the players find it hard to play for an organization when they know at the end of the day that the owners just don't care how they do.
Well, let me say this, Baxter, just because I know we got to wrap up soon. My 3 results of the week that really surprised me.
Yeah.
Sporting Kansas City beating San Jose, who has been hot.
Didn't see
Sporting
that.
Kansas City beating them 2-1. Of course, Dom Dwyer, big news there. He is officially an American citizen, so he does got to file paperwork to hopefully get called up by the U.S. national team. And with the slew of injuries, look, I'd much rather see a Dom Dwyer called up than a Chris Wondolowski.
Any day.
LA Galaxy topping Real Salt Lake, which of course led to Jeff Cesar Cassar led to his firing, so LA Galaxy finally gets some points. But Seattle, 3-1 over the New York Red Bulls.
Flexing their muscles.
At what point, as a Red Bulls fan, as the head coach, do you go, ooh, maybe we should have kept Dax?
I think you
start to
ask that question. I think so now. But you also can. I can see how they would justify it too, being like, look, guys, it was the reigning MLS Cup champions. Like, it happens. National TV. Like, yeah, it happens. But Where was the midfield?
Well, where was the midfield? And you say that at the same time, Jordan Morris is injured in this game. He stays in even though his dad, who's the medical doctor of the team, and the coaches are all saying, you really should come out of the game. And Jordan say, no, I want to stay in. And then he goes out and scores. So great story for him. But if you're New York Red Bulls letting an injured player score,
that says
trouble.
A lot.
Big trouble.
That says a lot about the state of your defense and the midfield as a whole. So I think the Red Bulls are just fine. I mean, they've already won 2 games, so they're not it's not like they haven't won a game all year. But losing to an injured, beaten, battered Seattle Sounders is embarrassing and something that they're going to want to forget immediately.
How amazing is this, though, to look at the standings and you see Atlanta United sitting atop of the Eastern Conference?
Oh my gosh! Orlando and Atlanta 1-2 basically, and then Portland, FC Dallas. The West makes a little bit more sense, but then you look at the East, and we already know the East makes no sense anyway, and it's just like, what is going on?
Although we did talk about Jason Kreis needing more than just that half year that he had in Orlando to really set into motion what he wants to do, and so far it's playing out. We talk about Portland being 3-0. Well, Orlando's only played 2 games, and they're sitting at 2-0.
Yeah.
And 0.
And that's basically without Kaká the entire time. I know he played in that first game, but he got injured. I think it was like 30 to 40 minutes into that first game. So realistically, you're 2-0 without arguably your best player on the field. So you have to feel pretty good about that if you're Orlando going forward.
Absolutely, taking down the Philadelphia Union, and that's one thing. Okay, it was
you
the
beat
Union,
Philly,
but they beat Philly 2-1.
The 9th place team.
What we do need to see is Orlando on the road. How are they when they get on the road?
That's the big thing. That's what I'm curious to see about as well, too. All right, not a lot of predictions to get to this week because of the international break. You do have, of course, the big game in the sense that you have United States, Honduras, and Scotland, Canada. We'll talk about both of those games here briefly. Who do you have in both of those games?
Well, I am of Scottish descent, so I got to go with I can't say my home country, but the country of my culture. I'm going with Scotland.
It runs in the blood.
They're not that great of a squad either, but I'm going to go. Let's say 3-1 Scotland.
It's you and I.
That
say
is
this
in-depth analysis right there, Baxter.
Because I'm Scottish. Go Scotland. It's like yes,
they're going to be great. If it's not Scottish,
the heck with it. You and I say this all the time. We really, really want Canada to be good.
We do.
We really do.
Well, it's good for the U.S. team. It's good for Mexico. It's good for Costa Rica. The better that Canada is, because that makes all of CONCACAF better. And the better that CONCACAF gets, it challenges everybody else to up their game.
Exactly. Canada, you suck. Scotland's going to find a way to win this game.
Let me say this.
That's my analysis.
Other than for the fact that they're the 3rd largest country, maybe 2nd largest country in North America.
Yeah.
They should not. If Costa Rica has to qualify to get into the Gold Cup, Canada should have to qualify to get into the Gold Cup. And for that matter, I'd be cool with everybody having to qualify to get into the Gold Cup.
I completely agree with you on that. Yeah, Scotland, a much better squad. They're going to come over with this victory. USA, Honduras, I think it's going to be a draw. I think what Brian said, Honduras is going to push the U.S. to the limits, and they might exploit them a couple times. But the U.S. Always finds a way at times to either get the lead back or to lose the lead late and then ultimately end up with a draw.
Yeah, the one thing about Bruce Arena teams is they always believe in themselves.
They do.
And I think that's going to go far away. We haven't seen that American belief in the U.S. team for a while. And actually, people are going to say, oh, that's going against Klinsmann again. It is and it isn't. It's just that the fact that when Arena was at the helm, yes, they didn't do great in 06, but let's not forget that quarterfinal finish they had in 02. And that mainly came from Bruce Arena getting these guys to believe that they really could beat anybody in the world. Perhaps it's not going to be pretty, but I do see the U.S. coming out on top. It's going to be a close one. I'm going to go 2-1 United States.
Okie doke. Moving on to the 3 Major League Soccer games for the weekend. The battle of the 2 terribles is Minnesota United and the Revolution playing host in that one. Look, they both are terrible. The Minnesota United want to redeem themselves after just an absolute onslaught of goals they've allowed. Do I think they could beat the Revolution? Yes. Do I want them to? No. Who's my pick? The Revolution are going to hopefully win this game because they have the better of the 2 firepowers. And even though the Revolution's defense has been bad this season, the Loons' defense has been non-existent. So I find the Revolution barely, because that's classic Revolution fashion, barely winning this game. It'll probably be a 2-1 or a 3-2 sort of a debacle.
Well, let's not forget, Baxter, that Minnesota United is going to lose Venegas for this game as well. And I think actually that's the biggest factor. They're also going to be losing Francisco Calvo as well as Rasmus Schuler. So they're going to see at least 3 of their players gone from that roster, Venegas perhaps being the more important one. So I think the Revolution actually have an easier time with Minnesota than you're expecting them to.
How many people did the Revs have called up? Oh, wait, nobody. That's right. Because
you're right. It just skips right over the New England Revolution.
Classic.
Well, here's the thing. These are the games that New England has to take advantage of.
You have to win. Like I said, yes, I think from an analytical perspective, yes, they should win the game. As a fan, I'm not expecting much, which is sad to say.
Right.
It's very sad to say.
It could turn out to be, if to you entertainment is purely about goals, this could be one of the more exciting games of the season.
That's true. This could be like a 4 or 5 total goal game. Like, definitely tune in if you get the opportunity to. All right, real fast. We're almost out of time. Red Bulls, RSL, Colorado, Portland. I've got the Red Bulls because they're at home. I think they're doing better. RSL's floundering. Portland is going to go to Columbus and win this game because I don't think anybody can stop the Timbers right now.
Well, the Red Bulls, I also agree, are going to win, especially because Real Salt Lake will not have their awesome goalkeeper in goal, Nick Raimondo, who will, of course, be
he's the savior
with the U.S. team. I think I got to go with the same Baxter. Portland, they're not going to have Negby, they're not going to have Guzman, but that midfield does have depth. You're still going to have Valeri. I can't remember if Blanco is injured or not, if he's still playing, but you got Adi, you got the back line that's still pretty strong.
Roy Miller is going to be good.
Yeah, Roy Miller has not been called up to the Costa Rican national team.
Yeah.
So you still have him in the back. I've got Portland as well.
All right, Panama, USA next Tuesday.
Oh, we're doing that one already.
I figured we'd throw that one in there as well, too, since it'll be before we get to a show. I've got USA winning this game because I think that they're going to now have that game under their belts with taking on a very tough Honduras team that I think that they're going to have a lot built up to go and get the ultimate victory that they need to against Panama.
Yeah, it's Dunseth. Can we start calling him Dunny yet? I don't know if we're on that level.
We're on that level. He's been on enough times.
Right. So, one of the things he talked about is CONCACAF being tough, and Panama is not an easy team to get wins over either at home. I'm going to go with a draw, Baxter. I think the U.S. gets the 4 points that they're hoping to get. Much rather see 6, but I'm going to take a draw on this one. Okie
doke. Well, let us know your predictions and thoughts about anything we talked about here in the comment section below. Of course, you can do it as well on our Facebook page as well. Special thanks to Tesho Akindele of FC Dallas for joining us today on the shopfutsal.com call-in line, as well as Sirius XM FC's Brian Dunseth as well, too, for stopping by. Great to have all of them. If you missed any of the show today, you can find it on our Facebook page, on Two Up Front. You can also find it, of course, on the Brew Sports Facebook page as well. And their website, that's the word I'm looking for, brewsportsnet.com. Of course, we're on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker.com, all over the place if you want to just get the audio podcast of the show as well. I think we have something else we have to say.
I believe.
We did an I believe?
Yeah, we were talking about doing an I believe.
I believe that one of these days I'll remember how to do the show. No, what do I believe? I believe that Atlanta is going to make the playoffs. I don't think I said that at the beginning of the season, but based off the first 3 games of the year, I do believe Atlanta United is going to make a huge impact in Major League Soccer this year, much more than we thought or were probably going to give them credit for before the season started.
All right, I believe that in that Panama game, we will see a Chris Wondolowski appearance.
Always. Love me some Wando. It's
no, you
true.
don't.
No, I don't.
Listen,
I really don't.
I love him in Major League Soccer.
Yes.
He's wonderful in Major League Soccer. He's one of the best forwards of all time.
Yes.
In Major League Soccer. But it's about what does he do with the U.S. national team.
Exactly.
Not much, unfortunately.
Unfortunately not.
But the one thing he does do, I will say this, okay, the one thing he does do is he likes to score against the minnows. Now, is Panama really a minnow? They're on the cusp of being more of a CONCACAF powerhouse, if you will. Mm-hmm. But I still think they're at that level that Wondolowski feels incredibly confident playing at.
I agree. I completely agree. Well, I hit all the stuff for people to find us at. Where do they find us on the social media side of things,
they
Simon?
find us on Facebook, 2 Up Front. Find us on Twitter as well, at 2 Up Front Soccer. And by the way, if you want to email us, do so at, well, not at, but 2upfrontsoccer@gmail.com.
There you go. That's always the hard part. Like, you can find me on Twitter at. It's like, no, it's like, what?
And then we sound like we're talking Star Wars.
Yes, exactly. They're attacking. The AT-ATs.
And all the geeks are saying, no, it's AT-AT. And then I'm giving my geekdom away. Sorry, everybody.
Figure it out, Star Wars. Figure it out. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. He's Simon Provan. I'm Baxter Colburn, with our manager being the one above. We are 2 Up Front.